Hello, everybody. Welcome to the UMA Alumni Association's December webinar, Take Control of Your Time. My name is Alexis, and I'm the Alumni Engagement Coordinator at UMA. Ashley Wheeler will be your speaker during today's webinar. Ashley will be discussing how making small changes can make a big impact when it comes to managing your demanding schedule. Before Ashley begins presenting, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items and give everybody a chance to get settled in. So to give you guys a quick breakdown of the webinar, Ashley will speak for roughly 20 minutes and leave about 10 minutes for the question and answer session at the end. If you have any questions, you can send them in at any time in the questions box, and we'll collect them and she'll address as many as possible at the end. If you experience audio issues during the webinar, we recommend exiting out of your current browser and opening the webinar in a different browser. For example, close out of Chrome and open Internet Explorer. We also recommend closing out of other pages and applications to help the platform run as smooth as possible. We also did want to let you guys know that you are muted to prevent noise interference during the webinar, so if you have a question, be sure to send it in the questions box since we are unable to hear you. Last but not least, the webinar is being recorded and will be sent to participants to view shortly after the webinar concludes. So that wraps up all of our housekeeping items, and now you can begin presenting, Ashley.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As I was just introduced by Alexis, my name is Ashley Wheeler, and I've worked for Ultimate Medical Academy for roughly 1 year as a Learner Services Advisor. As a Learner Services Advisor, I help our current students succeed while enrolled at UMA. A little bit about me before we begin. I've worked in higher education since beginning my career, and I've worked with many different people and had a variety of job responsibilities. I have taught both myself and the students that I work with various ways to make their time work for them. So I'm excited to present a few time management things that I have learned over the years. If there is one thing that my students have always told me they have struggles with, it's that they don't know how to manage their time so that they're able to get everything done in a day. So right off the bat, I am going to give you the secret about time management. Now, it might seem strange that I'm going to start out with the big secret, but I figure we should go ahead and get this right out on the table. Are you ready? There is no right way to manage your time perfectly. And a shocker, right? But trust me, if there had been a perfect way to manage time, this secret probably would have gotten out a long time ago. In essence, the big secret to time management is that there is no secret. And there's a reason that there's no perfect way to manage time. That's because every single person is different. Effective time management for you may not be effective for those around you. For example, I quickly want to talk to those of you listening today that have kids. This is probably the majority of those attending this webinar, but maybe not everyone, which is fine because this example should still resonate, even if you don't have kids. Swap out kids for your siblings, parents, or even coworkers. For those that do have multiple children, you can probably agree with this. No two kids are the same. You may have one kid that is rambunctious and always getting into trouble, and you may have that one child that is timid and you're trying to get them to come out of their shell. Because you have at least two different children, there's not going to be one right way to parent them both, because what works for one child may not work for the other. The same thing goes with time management. What may work for someone could very likely not work for someone else. So I'm going to cover the little things that you can do to make your time management more manageable. I believe the best way to do this is to just go through a typical day. Now, the first thing I'm going to start out with might sound a little bit strange, but hear me out. My number one tip to start off your day right is making sure you get a good night's sleep. If there is one thing that is the foundation of time management, it's getting enough sleep at night. The reason for that is because you want to start your day off with enough energy and enough clarity to get you through the whole day. How many times have you woken up and you cannot even begin to start thinking until you've either had that cup of coffee or taken a shower or done something to, quote unquote, wake yourself up? You need to make sure that as you're going throughout your day, that you're prepared to handle all of the things that you have to accomplish. If you don't start off with a great foundation, then the rest of these tips won't do you much good. Remember that a good night's sleep will help you feel more alert and ready to confidently tackle your day, because being alert and confident are exactly the way you need to effectively manage time. Now, unfortunately, this next tip has become more and more of a struggle in recent years with the rise of technology. And I have to admit that I am, at times, one of the guilty people that does this. So, when you wake up in the morning, do not touch your phone. Now, I can feel you glaring at me from wherever you're watching this, but let me explain myself. When you first wake up, do you automatically want to be sitting at your office desk, receiving email alerts, and having to instantly just get into your day? No one wants to do that. So why do we make our brains do that in the morning? Our brain is just as important as the rest of our body. Let your brain do what the rest of your body is doing and wake up gradually. Don't start making your brain work by trying to observe all of the happenings of social media during the night. And while we're mentioning phones and social media, try to limit yourself to 1 hour of social media time a day, max. I know we sometimes have FOMO, the fear of missing out, but if something is really important, you will probably see it in an hour or less of social media. And when I say important, I mean what is happening in your family and friends' lives, and not a 30-second cooking video. In fact, here's a little game. Starting tomorrow morning, try to keep track of how much time you spend on social media in a day. You might be surprised at the number of hours you see. So going back to waking up in the morning, there are so many other things that you can use to help you gradually wake yourself up. For example, listen to some calming music or do some stretching. You don't need to start your brain that quickly. Save that for when you go to work. You need to begin your morning without distractions and continue that throughout your day and night. Declutter your nightstand when you wake up next to your bed so you only have the essentials. You should also work towards decluttering your physical and emotional life too. One of those essential things that I recommend keeping near you in the morning leads me to my next tip of keeping a gratitude journal so that you can write down what you're grateful for. This is actually something that I do every morning myself. When I wake up, I have a journal sitting next to my bed, and I take it out, and I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, whether it was a conversation with an old friend, an interesting quote I read the day before, or even just generally being happy for the people that are in my life. The reason I do this is because I want to remind myself of why I do the things I do. Although this doesn't seem like a time management tip, this could be one of the most important ones. If you don't have a goal and don't have things that you're grateful for, then why are you working so hard in your life? This is basically the time of your day to remember everything that you are doing in your day has a purpose and will be worth it in the end. It also helps to prioritize what tasks in your day will help you toward your end goal and what areas of your life bring you happiness. In contrast, your gratitudes can ultimately help you look at what emotional baggage you can let go of and which distractions are not helping you reach your end goal. So we've written down our list, which leads me to probably one of the most popular time management tips of all, using planners, calendars, and lists. I don't think it comes as any kind of a shock that it's easier to remember everything you need to get done when you write it down somewhere. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you to go out and just buy the first planner you see. Even that takes a little bit of research. You need to figure out before you even buy a planner what kind of work you do. Are you a 9-to-5 office worker? Do you have kids? Are you attending classes? These and many other factors contribute to what type of planner, calendar, or list you need to utilize. So for the purpose of this webinar, I'm going to use myself as an example. But before I share my personal management style, I'm curious to know what you use to keep track. So you will see a poll on your screen, which we'll leave up for a few seconds while you answer. The question is, what time management tool do you currently use to track your weekly and daily tasks? Do you use a list, a planner, a calendar, something else, or nothing?
Okay, great. So we've already got some results. We'll leave the poll up for a few more seconds. I'm going to count it down. We'll close in 3, 2, 1.
Fantastic. So it kind of looks like everybody uses a calendar, at least the majority of you. We have some that use a planner and none of the above. So that right there just shows that there's a variety of different things that you can use when you're planning out your day. So for me, since I work in an office, I'm also a student taking online classes to earn my master's degree. I participate in activities with my church, and I enjoy spending time with my various friends. So I have a lot of stuff going on, and it can be difficult to keep track sometimes. So for my sanity, I need to use a planner. When I get a planner, I make sure that it has big sections for me each day to write out the different lists that I need. I differentiate between the different types of activities or tasks that I need to do by using different colored ink pens. Every type of activity has a different color. For example, let's say I'm going to dinner with friends. Friends are always in green. My school assignments are always written in purple. If I need to add something to my grocery shopping list, I write it in red. I am a very visual person, and I need those color contrasts to help me stay focused and organized. However, you might be the very organized person that likes to list things from top to bottom, which means that you're probably more of a list person. Writing down all of those tasks so that way you can see them one by one and then having that wonderful feeling of marking something off that list. But you could also have children, and they have school plays and soccer practices and various other activities. You may not want to carry a huge planner or anything like that, so a wall calendar may work better for you. You need something that you can just quickly glance at in the mornings to see what activities are going on that day. This all really goes back to figuring out what type of person you are and how you need to utilize these various tools. Once you figure out which tool you need to use, you will be better able to prioritize the work you need to do and the things you need to get it done. This could also be a good opportunity for you to figure out that there may be things that you put on your list of items to do that you may not actually need to do. So this really goes into evaluating your day. So after this webinar is over, I want all of you to take out a piece of paper. On the paper, draw a big circle. Then create your own pie with 24 slices. This is essentially drawing a 24-hour clock. Once you divided the circle into 24 parts, go through and honestly write down what you do in a day. And just try to think of a typical day. Shade in the areas when you sleep, shade in your work times, your times at the gym, your commute driving times, and so on and so forth. Then evaluate your clock. Do you realize that you may be spending 3 hours a day watching TV? Or are you just now realizing that you only get about 5 hours of sleep? This time clock will help you begin your evaluation of how you currently manage your time. I would encourage all of you to do this and keep this pinned up somewhere you can see it. As you start making little changes in your life, whether it's limiting social media or adding in more time you spend with your kids, your clock can change. And with any good list, remember to always schedule time for the little things. Don't be afraid in your calendar or planner to write down that time that's 30 minutes that's of you time. Sometimes we need that personal time to be effective in our lives. So we've gone through our morning, we've made our lists, we went to work, but we need to take care of ourselves. Healthy living is part of time management because if we're not healthy in mind, body, and spirit, then you're not going to be able to accomplish any of your tasks. Have you ever been sitting at your desk and that 2 p.m. feeling sets in? It's that feeling of the cobwebs just forming in your head. What do you do to fix that? You get up and walk around and step away from what you're doing for a few minutes. My next tip really just expands on that idea. Make sure that you schedule time in your day for exercise and to plan healthy eating habits. Exercise and keeping a healthy body can keep your energy up and make the work you do happen more effectively. And eating a healthy diet will make you feel better as well. When thinking about time management and eating, don't forget, meal prepping can be your best friend. Trying to prep all of your meals at the beginning of the week just saves you time during the day so you can get to your other activities quickly. It's also easier to make healthy choices if the food is already prepared for you. So, you've done all this work, you have planned out your day, and the inevitable happens. Sometimes changes are going to occur, and that's where this next time management tip comes in. Always plan for the inevitable. Remember to leave time in your schedule during any situation for those little things to happen. Now, I used to be notorious for being late, so what I did to combat that was schedule time for my lateness. In my home, all of my clocks are set 10 minutes fast. Since my clocks run fast, I'm always getting out the door 10 minutes early because I know that inevitably there will be traffic. So I've built this into my daily routine, and now I'm usually one of the first people to arrive wherever I'm going. Remember that you shouldn't stress too much about the schedule changes. They're all a part of life, so go ahead and put time in your schedule for them, and they won't mess up your day. Now, my next point could be the most difficult one of all. Sometimes we have to learn to say no. One of the biggest factors with time management is understanding that we only have a certain amount of time. We only have 24 hours in the day, and we cannot add more time to our day. So we still need to make that healthy amount of sleep we talked about at the beginning of the webinar. So this means that there may be certain situations come up that you simply have to say no to. How many of us have that one friend that is always asking us to do something at the last minute? We want to be a good friend and help them all the time, but it's important to remember that our time is important as well. We are not superhuman, and we cannot accomplish every single thing we want to do. You need to recognize that that's okay. Learning to say no can help you be more effective with your time management because you are prioritizing the work that needs to get done. Saying no can help you not only be able to get all of your work done, but give you the time that you need to get your tasks done well. So finally, we've reached the end of our day, and there are likely things that we didn't get to accomplish. I recommend returning to your gratitude list from this morning and reading over what you wrote. I said earlier in the webinar that I list 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. I said this because I typically have 3 or 4 things that I didn't get to in my day. My final tip is to make sure you write out your to-do list the night before because you know better then what you need to accomplish tomorrow. And this will prevent you from having to start your brain off too quickly in the morning by making a list. You'll have already prepped this the night before. So each item that I have on my to-do list, that is the number of gratitudes I write down each morning. That way, every task, even the not so fun ones, have something positive attached to them. Now, I've presented a number of tips, and some of you may be thinking that not all of them are necessarily time management tips, and you would be right. Some of these are more about figuring out your priorities, and priorities are the absolute key to time management. If you have ultimately not figured out what you need to be doing in your day, week, or life, then it will be difficult to manage your time. You need a clear goal to decide what is worth prioritizing, so that way you know where your time is better spent in a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. I hope you use these tips to figure out your end goal and how you can manage your time wisely so that you get to your goal. So let's quickly recap the time management tips that we went over. There is no right way to manage your time. Begin with a great night's sleep, because it's the foundation of good time management. Limit technology in both the morning and during the day. Establish a morning routine that reduces the number of distractions. Declutter your physical and emotional life. Keep a gratitude journal and list 3 things that you're grateful for every morning. Decide what management tool, which is planners, calendars, lists, etc., works best for you, and begin writing things down. Evaluate your day every so often, just so that way you can see how you're spending your time. Schedule time for healthy living, and don't stress out when your schedule changes. It's okay to say no, and define a clear goal so that you know what's worth prioritizing. Thank you so much for listening today.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much for those tips, Ashley. I cannot wait to start implementing them myself. So before we go into the Q&A session, we just wanted to ask you all to review UMA at ultimatemedical.edu/Google. If you could just leave a quick review of your UMA experience, whether it's with this webinar or with your schooling or your advisor, anything that you would like to share, we would love to hear it. So now we can go into our Q&A session. We did want to let you guys know that if you do have other questions, you can contact alumni at ultimatemedical.edu, and we will do our best to assist you. So we've got one question here, Ashley. Do you have any tips on multitasking?
Absolutely. We all go through our day and we get those various things that need to get done, and sometimes we feel like they all need to get done at once. But probably one of the biggest tips I have is to know when to multitask, because not all tasks that you're given should be done simultaneously. It's all about prioritizing, figuring out, okay, you have this list of things to do. They all need to get done, but what's the most urgent? What needs to get done now, and what needs your entire focus? Because you don't want to be focusing on 3 things at once, because then the quality of what you're doing isn't going to be there, and it's going to stress you out even more. So what I typically do if I have about 3 or 4 projects is that I group anything together that can be grouped together, and then I prioritize. I figure out what needs to get done first, what can maybe wait a little bit later, but mainly figure out what needs my 100% undivided attention and do that first.
Perfect answer. We've got another question here, more of asking advice. How can you get others to understand the word no? So you talked about how to say no and how, to make yourself do that, but how can you get others to understand it?
Absolutely. And it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and say there's a magical tip or trick like it's always going to happen. And a lot of it really just comes into maybe even the way you phrase it. I wouldn't go up to someone that says, hey, can you help me do this, and just say no. Don't do that. Just explain to them, I would love to help you, but unfortunately, I have a lot of projects to do right now. Once I'm done, maybe I can help, but I don't want to commit myself and maybe hinder your project. So I would actually kind of spin it around on them. Just say, well, I don't have a lot of time and I don't want to mess up something that might be important to you. So maybe you should find somebody that can help you, that has the time to devote to it so that their project can be done well.
Yep. So we actually have a follow-up on that. So do you think that would help others learn to kind of respect the word no?
Absolutely. And I think the word no has such a negative connotation anyway. If you hear yes, 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 that's such a positive thing, but people hear no and they think it's so negative, which it can be at times, but it's also about sticking with it. You know, you don't want to just always say no to that one person, but then you say yes to everybody else. It's really about being consistent. So understanding, and it goes back to understanding that your time is valuable, you know, and making others understand that, you know, you've got stuff going on too, and just making sure that you understand that you want them to have their projects done just as well as you want your projects to be done. So it's really just about consistency, staying with it, you know, always putting it kindly. Again, don't just say no, can't do this, you know, but being as supportive as you can, but gently letting them know, you know, I have my own stuff going on, but I will help you when I can.
Okay, so Ashley, how can you assist others at work, your fellow coworkers, your colleagues, help them with their tasks, but still make time to manage your own time and get your own tasks done?
Absolutely. Well, and it goes into, that's even one of the times you could look into lists and calendars and things like that. It's really just almost even teaching the people around you, because there may be someone that you're working with that you see them, they're all over the place, they're scattered, and if you've got a 10-15 minutes, talk to them. Say, hey, listen, are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling unorganized? Because 99% of the time, I'm not going to say all the time, but most of the time they're probably going to say yes. Teach them some of these tips. Help them write out a list, because once they can see visually what they have to get done, even though it may be a daunting list, there's a clear end to it. And usually if people can see an end point, then it makes them a little bit more comfortable. They're able to kind of organize their time, and it won't take out too much time of your day. But again, remember, your time is valuable. But just offer them some of those tips and tricks and help them get organized too, because ultimately if they're organized, it's probably going to help you in the long run.
My boss just gave me 3 big projects. How do I know which tasks to manage and prioritize? Absolutely. Well, the first thing I would start out with is have an honest conversation with your boss, because if they have given you these tasks, most of the time they're going to say, well, I want them all done. But if you're willing to have a little bit more of a conversation and dig a little bit deeper, probably in the end you're going to find out there's something that they want done first, second, and third. Also, just evaluate these jobs. Maybe that there's something that you have to have done first, which once that's accomplished, it's actually going to make task 2 and task 3 just a little bit easier. So it's really just about prioritizing, kind of get a feel from your boss what he's wanting done first, what's the most urgent, and use your best judgment. That's why I say that it's so important to start off with the foundation of a good night's sleep. You need that clarity, you need that alertness, because that may be something you have to pay attention to check and see which one needs your full attention first. Good point. We've got another question. What about combining management tools, so using a combination of a list and a planner? Do you recommend that?
Absolutely. All of the tips that I gave you today are intended to be used together. I do the same thing. I use my planner. I love my planner. I've used it for years, but I am also notorious for using Post-its. I truly believe if something's written on a Post-it, it's going to get done. And it's kind of the same thing with the lists. I will write out individual tasks that I have to get done on a Post-it. Then once I get done, I don't mark it off. I throw it away. It's done. I've accomplished it. It's gone. So definitely find those areas where it's best to do both. It's going to help you, but you have to do what's best for you and in the situation that you're in.
Okay. It looks like we have one final question. So while we ask that and have Ashley answer it, if you do have another question, feel free to send it in. Otherwise, we will wrap up after this. The question is, do you have any advice on managing work and being a student at the same time?
Absolutely. It definitely has its set of challenges. As I said, I'm a student as well. I work a full-time job. And it kind of goes back to prioritizing and understanding multitasking. When you are at work, remember that you are there, you are in a building, you are separated from your home, so focus on what's in front of you. Don't be thinking about the paper that you've got due at the end of the evening or, something else you may have to write with your class. You're at work, focus on your job, and it's vice versa. Once you walk out those doors, and sometimes this is difficult, once you walk out those doors, leave work at work. You've got other things to focus on. You have family, kids, being a student. There's other things that require your attention. So although there are those times that you really want to, maybe not physically, but emotionally bring your work home with you, try to leave it all at your desk so that way you can focus on your priorities and what's right in front of you at that time.
Okay, we did receive another question.
Okay.
Can you give any advice on getting a good night's rest if you have trouble sleeping?
Absolutely. I am one of those people. I do toss and turn a little bit. I am one of those people that I have to have a completely black room. I can't have any lights on, even something as simple as maybe a light at the bottom of the TV. So I've had to go around and actually put black tape on parts of my television that have a glowing light. I've also found out that sometimes, essential oils, having lavender scents, I'll have that in my room. That's something, or even a sound machine. I know it's something typically parents use for children, some sort of a sound machine, but I have found that if I have a fan going, although it's not like a television, it's a sound, it's enough of a noise that it just calms my nerves, and it's really more of that hum that kind of gets you going. So there's definitely a lot of ways to put yourself into a relaxing state. Just like when you're waking up in the morning, I suggested listening to calming music. Same thing. If you find that you're using social media or watching TV at night, turn everything off at least an hour or two before you go to bed. Don't be on your phone checking social media or whatnot on your phone before you go to bed, because that's just going to keep you awake. Read a book, take a bath, do something that does not require any kind of electronics, and it's definitely going to help you put your mind into more of that restful state.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. My first thought was going back to that limiting technology.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it looks like that's all of our questions.
Great. So
we're going to wrap up. We did want to remind you guys that if you do have any questions or you need to be connected to any departments in UMA, that you can contact alumni at ultimatemedical.edu, and we will help you out. So we hope that you all have a good rest of your day, and thank you for joining us.